And we're back again on Okaloosa Eye on Crime, your community crime fighting show.
And this month we're going to talk about several active murder investigations, a tragic shooting in Fugitives Springs, and we've got a couple cold cases as well, so we're going to get started on those. Up first, up to an $8,000 reward being offered in a Fugitives Springs shooting where it left a mother of two paralyzed from the chest down after more than a dozen shots were fired on the evening of January 10th. The first 911 call came in at 8:07 when a caller reported hearing the sound of gunfire in the area of Fairfield Drive and U.S. Highway 90. When deputies arrived, they located a vehicle with bullet holes and a victim inside. She was quickly transported to Fort Walton Beach Medical Center, and a witness at the scene reported the suspect vehicle had sped off after firing more than 14 rounds at the car, and it was headed east towards Fugitives Springs. The witness was unable to determine the make and model of the shooter's vehicle. Walton County Sheriff's Office crime scene technicians processed the scene into the early morning hours and were collecting shell casings and bullet fragments stretching west down Highway 90 from Owens Road to west of Fairfield, and that's about 2/10 of a mile. So, of course, there's a $3,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. And the Florida Sheriff's Association Criminal Apprehension Assistance Program has chipped in another $5,000 towards that reward. So anybody with information, of course, contact the Walton County Sheriff's Office or remain anonymous and contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers.
And next up, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is seeking information referencing some catalytic converter thefts. The vehicle you see pictured here believed to be involved in the theft of multiple catalytic converters from a business located on Milliken Road up in Crestview back on January 13th. Now, the vehicle may be an older model Chevrolet Equinox. This is something that we're not only seeing here in Okaloosa County, but this has been a regional problem as well, and that is the theft of the catalytic converter. So anybody with information about who might own that vehicle, you can give us a call, of course, 863-TIPS or emeraldcoastcrimestoppers.com.
Yeah, those folks have been busy. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is trying to identify the two men seen in this video that attempted to get into a home on Majestic Drive in Crestview around 2:30 in the morning on January 10th. One male was wearing a camouflage sweatshirt with the word Beast on the front, a black beanie, and a pair of white and black Nike shoes. The second had tattoos covering a majority of both forearms. So if that sounds familiar to you, you have any ideas, contact Crime Stoppers.
And Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office investigators are still seeking information in a 31-year-old disappearance case of a Fort Walton Beach teenager. And if you've lived here any amount of time, you've probably heard about this one. It's been more than 3 decades since 13-year-old Andrea Durham vanished from her family's Ocean City apartment near Fort Walton Beach, and investigators are still searching for answers. She was home alone on the evening of February 1st, 1990. When her mother and sister returned home from a meeting, they found Andrea's purse and all of her personal belongings inside, but Andrea was nowhere to be found. Now, investigators say nothing was out of place and there were no signs of a struggle. And of course, over the years, many leads have come in regarding this case, but none have provided any solid leads in the case. So anybody who may have any information, no matter how insignificant you might think it may be, you just never know how much it might help investigators. So give us a call, of course, 863-TIPS, emeraldcoastcrimestoppers.com, or the P3 mobile TIPS app.
And moving next to the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, where there's a suspicious death investigation involving a home in the Niceville area. Deputies were called to 1534 Pine Street around 7:20 in the morning on January 13th in reference to a missing person call, as well as indications of a possible death. When deputies got there, they found a deceased female, later identified as 45-year-old Lauren Morado, of that address, underneath bedding in the master bedroom. Now, investigators working that case have issued a warrant for 57-year-old Brett Bay, who lived at the trailer with Morado. At this point, it's for tampering with evidence. Bay and his white 1995 Isuzu station wagon are currently missing, and deputies are hoping someone out there watching might be able to help them locate him. Bay's a white male with gray hair and brown eyes. He's 5'10" and weighs around 200 pounds. There are 3 recent active murder investigations that the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is investigating, and they have something in common that we're going to talk about in a minute. But first, Captain David Allen with OCSO Investigations is here, and we're going to go over the basic facts in these 3 cases. The most recent involves the shooting of 44-year-old disabled resident Nancy Schreiner, and that was on February 9th. So, Captain, what can you tell us about the Schreiner homicide?
So, on the date that it occurred, we have information. We were able to determine that a gold-colored Cadillac Escalade was seen patrolling the area. We see a vehicle show up And then we see the gold Cadillac Escalade pull down a road. A gunfight ensues between people in a yard that was on Shirley Drive and from members of the vehicle shooting back and forth at each other is what we have so far.
Okay, and Nancy gets hit in this exchange of gunfire?
Yes, we see that Nancy gets hit when deputies arrived and members of Fort Walton Beach Police Department. She had taken a fatal round in the chest.
And are there any clues on what was the motive behind the gunfire? And was Nancy involved in this or in any way, shape, or form, or did she just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, that classic case?
Well, so the information we're receiving is that this is a retaliation from a disturbance that had happened between two groups. Nancy had nothing to do with the retaliation. She was not the target of the shooting. She just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately.
Terrific. We're going to move on now. We've got a second one from December 2020. It's the shooting death of 28-year-old Kreskin Robinson Jr. of Fort Walton Beach. And what are the facts in this one?
Again, this was in the Sylvania Heights community like Nancy's was. We received a call for, I believe it was a medical emergency. When deputies arrived, they found Mr. Robinson with a gunshot wound to the head. His car was still running. It was behind a residence.
And he was inside that car? He was
yes,
inside?
ma'am. Yep.
And it was still running. Any motive for that one? Is this another retaliation type of thing, or do you know at this point?
We have theories we don't know,
Okay.
but we did see, we have information that a white dually truck or white large truck and a black car with a loud exhaust left the scene quickly after. But we do not have a motive at this time.
Okay, and then we're going to go back to November 20th of 2020, and here's another fatal shooting, this time in the Okaloosa area, and the victim was 35-year-old Deshaun Frazier of Crestview. So what took place at that trailer? It was on Marimba Street.
So again, deputies responded to a medical emergency. They arrived at the scene, found a female screaming at the front porch, were able to enter the residence, found Mr. Frazier with a gunshot wound to the head, lying on the floor.
What about motive in that one? Any clues?
We do have clues. We don't have anything concrete, but we believe it was potentially a retaliation type situation.
Okay. Is there any chance that these three cases are connected in any way? Have you seen any indication of that?
No, we don't have any connection with these three that we've determined yet.
And we mentioned at the onset there is something in common with these cases from the investigative side of things anyway. Tell us about that.
So people are reluctant and we believe scared to come forward and provide information. We would encourage them, you know, if they don't want to call the sheriff's office and don't want to come in and interview, to, you know, leave an anonymous tip on Crime Stoppers. In my experience, I know that they're anonymous because we've called Crime Stoppers in the past and they will not release the information. But I think the reason we need people to come forward is, you know, we don't want some other innocent victim to, we don't want anyone to die, but any innocent victim like Nancy to get shot.
And there's people out there that have information that can help solve these cases and bring the people who are responsible to justice, but they need to speak out.
Yes.
That's the key. And I think the key thing too is that you can do it anonymously and get a cash reward of up to $3,000. So Crime Stoppers is actually a perfect vehicle for the people who are reluctant because they fear retaliation themselves.
Yes, and all we're asking is just put us in the right direction, put us on the right path. We'll do the rest of the work from there. And again, we would not know who provided that information.
That's right. And of course, you have the options on how to use Crime Stoppers. You've got EmeraldCoastCrimeStoppers.com, you've got 863 Tips, and of course the P3 Tips mobile application, which is pretty popular. So if you've got any information on any of these crimes or any others, step forward. We'd love to hear about it. Okay, moving next to our first list of fugitives that Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers is hoping you can help law enforcement locate. First up on our list is Jesse James Duddick. Duddick is wanted for felony burglary and larceny, and he was last known to live on Winfield Drive in Niceville.
But we do have some good news, and that is John Richard Aaron Strange has been located since our last show.
Searching for Tanya Denise Curry for the sale of cocaine, last known address on Colonial Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
And another one that's been caught by law enforcement is Robert Allen Hickok.
Not caught so far, though. Joseph Jamal Davenport, wanted for fleeing and eluding law enforcement with disregard for safety to persons or property. Last known address for Davenport was on Allen Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
And we're still looking for 27-year-old Brennan Shane Dickinson. He's wanted for burglary, criminal mischief, grand theft of a firearm, as well as dealing in stolen property.
We don't have a photo available on this next one, but you may recognize the name. It's Ronald Lee Corbin, and Corbin's wanted for failure to register as a sexual offender.
And the Crestview Police Department is searching for Desmus T. McTeer for felony driving while license suspended or revoked, fleeing and eluding law enforcement. He was last known to live on Woodruff Avenue up in Crestview.
Donald Joe Mitchell's last known address was in Navarre. He's 68. He's wanted for DUI and driving with a license that had been suspended or revoked.
Tad Keith Bowers, who's 50 years old, he's wanted for violation of probation on the original charge of child neglect.
Also searching for James Ryan Knudsen. Knudson's wanted for use of a two-way communication device to facilitate a felony and for smuggling contraband into a detention facility.
Walton County deputies are searching for 29-year-old Robert Wayne Maxwell for threats, extortion, and cyberstalking. He was last known to live over in Pensacola.
Just taking a guess on this name, Tiffany Nicole Key, wanted for larceny.
29-year-old Anthony Michael Frodely, he's wanted for violation of probation for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, and providing false information to a pawnbroker, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
Unfortunately, we don't have a pic on this next one, but it's Brandon Dalton West, and he's wanted for sexual assault. So any information on West, please contact Crime Stoppers.
And 28-year-old Alyssa Victoria Hibberts, last known to live in Pensacola, she's being sought for violation of probation for child neglect as well as possession of cocaine.
And wrapping up this first list, Shamari Kishan DeLone, we are happy to say, has been located since the last show. Next up, this is one of the most common scams that's out there, yet there's an Okaloosa County resident who has fallen for it twice already. Investigator Mike Kruger and crime prevention specialist Ashley Bailey want to help people spot scams like the ones con artists use to exploit the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes.
And here's their first episode of a new segment called Scam Spotters.
That scam entails somebody giving you a call or emailing you and asking, for your personal information, telling you you've won a car, you've won $7 million, a variation of that along it. And with that, they will, once they get your information, they will start asking for you to pay fees, embargoes, all types of crazy, complicated legal terms, and they will send you documents to back up what they're trying to say. So if anything like that happens, please contact law enforcement because we can help you decide if you actually have won something or if this is a scam.
So unfortunately, it's really common, and it's one reason why we're talking about this today. So, the big thing that citizens need to know is the Publishers Clearinghouse will never contact you through phone, through email, through text, through Facebook. If you've won, they will show up at your door just like everybody is saying on the commercials with the big old check.
No. Actually, what they're wanting you to do at that point is put that check into your bank, and then they're going to ask you for money from that check, and that check will actually bounce, and you will be out the money from your bank when you get a charge back.
And you never want to give out any confidential information over the phone to anybody that calls, of course. But, it's a way that they're just trying to get more information from you and steal from you even more. So, people have to remember never to give out their date of birth, their social security information, or any bank account information.
The best way is to research it independently. Don't follow any of the information they've given you in their documentation or in your conversation with them. They will direct you to the people they want you to talk to because they control those sources. But if you go online or contact someone that's internet savvy, they can research those things for you and tell you, whether this is real or not.
obviously, people can always contact the crime prevention at the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. We have our own website, and so on our website is all the information on this scam and others.
Oh, we've had quite a few local victims. Actually, we've had some victims that have fallen prey to it more than once. The problem is they social engineer their way into your life. Once they get in there, it may not be the same person that's calling. They've passed on your information to other scammers, and they know enough about you that they work their way in and get you to believe that you're a winner.
And now let's head to our next list of fugitives. We do want to remind you they are wanted as of today's taping date, which is February 19th, 2021. First up is 62-year-old James Clinton Brinkley Jr. He's wanted for violation of probation for battery, last known to live in Pensacola.
Contact us if you know where to find Joseph Lee Fairchild. Fairchild's wanted for VOP on a charge of aggravated assault.
Deputies are still searching for 28-year-old Ramisha Rebecca Hatcher. She's being sought for violation of probation for grand theft.
David Allen Bobbitt is wanted for fraud.
Regina Lynn Daniels, who was last known to live on Hudson Drive in Crestview, she's sought for violation of probation for possession of methamphetamine.
Clayton McCree Copeland's wanted for VOP for providing false information to a pawnbroker as well as grand theft of a motor vehicle. Last known address was in Destin.
Next up is Coretta LaDawn James. She's wanted for failure to appear for grand theft as well as fraud, last known to live on Wilson Street in Crestview.
Moving into Walton County, the sheriff's office there is looking for Devin Earl Jordan. Jordan's wanted for felony violation of probation and last known to live in Defuniak Springs.
Back to Okaloosa County, and that's 46-year-old Leon Leslie Chandler. He's being sought for violation of probation for driving while license suspended or revoked, as well as possession of weapon or ammo by a convicted felon. Now, he was last known to live on Ashley Lane in Fort Walton Beach.
Gregory Ray Long, wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for 2 active warrants stemming from 2 cases of burglary during a state of emergency and grand theft. Last known to live on Strange Road in Defuniak Springs.
34-year-old Blake Elliott Gundred, he's wanted for violation of probation for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, and providing false information to a pawnbroker.
Next up, Joshua Alexander Bates. Bates is wanted for uttering a forged instrument and violating probation for driving with a license that had been suspended or revoked, as well as possession of drug paraphernalia.
This one's a longtime feature on the show. That's Njoli Rochelle Johnson. She's 37 years old now, wanted for aggravated battery, last known to live on Mixon Road in Defuniak Springs.
Here's one on a charge we don't see that often. William George Riding Jr. He's wanted for counterfeiting.
And also Michelle Renee Riding. She's wanted for felony violation of probation.
Kevin Wayne Lestrape, wanted for failure to register as a sexual offender.
Last on this list is a new face to the show. It's Christine Chadwick. No photo available, but she is 57 years old, white female, wanted for cruelty to animal and resisting arrest without violence. So 42 years ago in February 1979, someone murdered convenience store clerk George Myers on Okaloosa Island. The 56-year-old was working the night shift the night of February 9th.
Investigator Jeffrey Butler spoke with local news media in an effort to try to find anyone with information who might be willing to step forward on this cold case.
This particular night, February 9th, 1979, right around 3 o'clock in the morning, we had 2 male individuals that came to the store to get some items. When they went inside, they could not find the clerk. They couldn't find Mr. Myers. So after a few minutes of looking around the inside of the store trying to find him, one of the particular males actually went into the back side of the store where there was kind of like a storage area. And they located Mr. Myers there. He was face down in the storage area. There was a lot of blood there, and it turns out he had been shot at least 8 times from the initial investigation.
Now, he says one of the strangest things about this case remains the mystery behind the motive for the violence. The store safe, the cash register, and Mr. Myers' wallet were all left untouched.
And of course, it's never too late to relay information in a murder case. So again, anyone with information, you can contact the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office or of course Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers 100% anonymously, and you could get a cash reward up to $3,000.
And so many of these cold cases and so many of these active cases are just one phone call away in certain circumstances from someone being brought to justice. So please keep that in mind. Next up, we're going to do our final list of fugitives and start off with Aja Marie Nathan. Nathan's Walton's wanted for failure to appear for vehicle theft, and her last known address was in Fort Walton Beach.
We're still searching for 28-year-old Reginald Dwayne Muse. He's being sought for violation of probation for grand theft, burglary, as well as aggravated stalking.
Mary Elizabeth Gibson wanted for VOP for leaving the scene of a crash with injuries, last known to live on Silva Drive in Fort Walton.
And more good news, Richard Earl Grigsby is now in custody.
Still trying to track down Timothy James Howard. He's wanted for larceny, resisting an officer, and recovery of stolen property, as well as failure to appear on a fraud charge. Last known address was Bearhead Road in Defuniak Springs.
Okaloosa deputies are still searching for 52-year-old George Monroe Emmerich II for violation of probation, for domestic violence strangulation, and aggravated battery.
And another long-timer on the list, Alexis Wilmer Mondragon, wanted by the OCSO for sexual battery, sexual offenses against a child, and lewd and lascivious molestation.
And we're not going to give up on that one either. So 28-year-old Daniel Lewis Davis is next. He's being sought for violation of probation for burglary, last known to live in Crestview.
Looking for Craig Edward Brochetto. Brochetto's wanted for VOP for possession of a controlled substance and providing false information to a pawnbroker.
Roderick James Rudderson Jr., who was last known to live on Mooney Road in Fort Walton Beach, he's wanted for possession of synthetic narcotics within 1,000 feet of a school, as well as failure to appear for driving while license suspended or revoked.
Samuel Edward Thomas III wanted for VOP on original charges of providing false information to a pawnbroker, false imprisonment, and grand theft.
And over to Walton County now. They are searching for 48-year-old James Anthony Williams for a violation of probation for possession of a controlled substance, possession of marijuana, as well as possession of drug paraphernalia.
And Tashawn Coward Sr. was last known to live on Scranton Street in Fort Walton Beach, and he's wanted for driving with a license that had been suspended or revoked, as well as non-payment of child support.
51-year-old Stephen Charles Briley, he's being sought for violation of probation for grand theft, as well as uttering a forged instrument.
And here's another individual that's been on the show for a while, hoping to track down Alethea Lynette Garcia, wanted for fraud. She swindled a 77-year-old by using fake letters from a charitable organization.
Tony Wayne Polland, who was last known to live in Freeport, he's wanted for failure to appear for criminal mischief, burglary, and theft.
No photo on this one. Angel Lewis Trowery, he's wanted by the Crestview Police Department for aggravated stalking, but last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
24-year-old Cole Rutland Graninger is wanted for violation of probation for aggravated stalking and burglary.
And wrapping up today with Larry Michael Ivy, wanted for failure to appear for fleeing and eluding law enforcement, driving with a suspended license, and vehicle theft. And Ivy's last known address was in Pensacola.
He's a professional team player, morale booster, and someone who consistently presents a can-do outlook. His professional actions demonstrate his drive to continually succeed, regardless of circumstances or potential dangers. Over the past year, she has initiated or was assigned 61 direct investigations, ranging from sexting to child pornography and production. These type cases are often the most demanding and intensive in law enforcement. She's become a leader in school safety and was recently commended by the Okaloosa County School District Safe School Specialist for her superior performance and exceptional dedication. Sergeant Roberts brings the same compassion and dedication she displays for her community to her role within the Airport Security Unit. Under her guidance and mentorship, her shifts have performed at a high level of efficiency and professionalism. His willingness to use and share his vast knowledge of court security has proven invaluable to his peers, supervision, the judiciary, and the overall successful operations of court security. He's a hard-working team player who in 2020 responded to 2,877 calls for service. Ms. Malonis routinely arrives early and stays late as needed. An untiring machine with a constant smile, she never lets the stress of her duties affect her positive attitude. Mona consistently excels in her responsibilities as an Okaloosa County Communications Officer. with unparalleled professionalism and a heart for service. Wes currently serves on the Posse Board of Directors as the Corporal at Large and is a strong leader who leads by example. Wes has been an active Posse member for a combined total of 17 years.
His mental health expertise is invaluable to the CNU during the negotiations process. He is able to identify if the subject is becoming more or less of a threat to himself or others.
And finally, before we wrap up this month's show, I do have some bad news to share with all of you, and that is that our annual Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers Crawfish Boil fundraiser has been canceled again this year. Of course, we do understand the COVID restrictions. We just didn't want to take any chances. But, of course, we're always accepting donations. You don't have to necessarily come to a fundraiser to help fund our program. Remember, it's funded not by taxpayer dollars, so we do rely a lot on donations from the public. But some sad news to report, but look out, we'll be back in 2022 for sure. And that's going to wrap up this month's show. We hope you'll join us next time.